In this very quick video, I will show you how out of a pure box we can very quickly create a trash can. And we will go a little bit more into detail how we can use the Bevel Modifier to create various types of edge roundings. Okay, so let's get started. First thing, we want to set up our unit system to be imperial and inches. Then in top view, we will add a cube. Press N for the panel here, and then for X, we type in 10.5, Y 10.5, and Z 13.5 inches. Very good. So we know we need to apply the scale. Very good. Then you can see that because we added a cube, the center point is right at the center of the mass. That is not what we want. So we go back into edit mode. I select two diagonal points, Shift S, cursor to selected, go back to object mode, right click, and cursor to 3D cursor. Origin. There we are. No, the Z is at -6 something, enter 0, enter, there we are. The 3D cursor is floating somewhere down there, so Shift S, cursor to world origin. We can park it again. Very nice. Okay. Then it's going to edit mode, face select, select the top face, X, and we delete the face. So now we can look into it. The top edges, they should be 10.5. The bottom edges, they should be 8 inches. To do this more precisely, we will turn on in viewport overlays our edge length. With Shift select all 4 edges, press S and then scale till, very careful, using the mouse, we see 8. Let me show you a little trick to get this nice and clean. I will do this on purpose, a little bit bigger. So you see 8.09 inches. And that's not what I want. I want them to be clean 8 inches. So when I scale to the center of my selection. So when I move my mouse to here, press S, and I move my mouse just a little bit, you see how the scaling is jumping a lot. Escape. I move my mouse to here. You see the dotted line to the center is much smaller. So how could I say that? I have more screen pixels. I could move the scaling, and thus it is moving in slower steps. Plus when I hold Shift, I can then go really in more clean steps. Okay. So that just simply as a little tip. For the same also for rotation, always try to have your cursor away from your object if you want to have smoother, softer transitions. Now to make this perfectly 8, because we work here in inches, we can select all these edges, which selects all the points, Shift S, and then we say selection to the grid. I am also in an orthographic view, which is why I have the grid as an overlay. And you see, it all snapped to the grid. When I now rotate my view, as you can see, it is just right there. Beautiful. Okay, back to normal view, go to edges, and we will add a bevel modifier. 1 inch and 10. There we are. Yep, scaling all looks good. So just wanted to double check something. And actually we can show this in this case here. So you see all edges are beveled at the same time because we use here the method angle, defining this edge, what's the angle between this face and this face? And this edge down here, this face and this face. So based on the edge, actually, let's see, when does it stop there? So when we go over a certain amount of degree, then there you see now actually only these edges around it, not those. So this is kind of like what this is all doing. So we could keep this, for example, at 85. Very easy. Or we set this to 30, then all edges are rounded at the same time. And when we go into wireframe mode and object mode, this is then now very easy to see. You see this is actually, that looks like a triangle. Particularly you can see this well when we set the segment to 1 or 10, and then these are all rounded actually quite beautifully. Let's go back to 85. Yeah, 85, that looks good. So we now only the vertical edges are rounded, not the bottom horizontal edge. To do this, no, we can simply add a second bevel command. 10, we'll do this 2, and the amount 1. Yeah, 1 doesn't really work. Why does it not work? That doesn't work because the first fillet is already 1. So when I hide this, you see here, this will all shrink. So this radius has to be smaller. Let's try 1/2 inch. And there you can see this much better. This is the original 1 inch fillet. And then via the second fillet, this gets smaller. And then there you can see when we increase this, at one point it will turn into, kind of like with 1, it will actually turn into a point, sharp corner. It's not very desirable. Then honestly, we could simply say something like this. But if we want to have this ball type corner, then we just go with 2 fillets. 1 is always bigger and 1 is always smaller. And this is actually a really nice shape. Very good. You also see how effective now here everything is via just using the angle. I could also have simply set go weight, go to edit mode, select all 4 edges, and then give this a weight. Works perfectly too. Or just angle with this. It's a matter then of preference. In object mode, shade smooth. This looks pretty good. And yeah, most of our vessel is kind of done. In terms of shading, I hope you can see here, this is nice and flat, and then the arc starts. Same also here. And this is another good element to show why very often I set those to these values to something like 0.6. You see this now looks much, much softer. You can clearly see kind of like a white line. 0.6, and we can do the same down here. What about actually 0.55? Yeah, that works okay. 2.5, then we really see it. Then you can really clearly see how this is flat and then it rounds. 0.6 is pretty good. Okay, again, this is more something that feels like a G2 edge rounding in Fusion. This will make more sense. And I just want to point out we can do this in Blender too. Okay, now we will imagine that this is actually simply an extruded piece of sheet metal, which we press into the shape. This is now very flimsy. On top, we would like to have a rim to strengthen it. We're going to edit mode. We will select all the top points here by selecting all the edges, or select the points, then Shift D and Escape. And then we go to Mesh, Separate, Selection. Here, this is our trash can. This is our rim. Both we can simply drag to there. This collection we can remove. Since this is just one object, collections don't really make sense. And here, because we made a copy of the mesh into a new object, it made a copy of the Bevel Modifier too. And vertice, or yeah, so for the rounding, this is all good. This can remain 30, that's fine. Okay, value has to be the same, it can't be smaller or bigger. And then let's go and add a skin modifier. And zoom out a little bit. We're going to edit mode. Press A to select everything. You see then when nothing is selected, this is empty. With A, we select everything, or select all. And then hold the Alt key, click and drag. You see then we can manipulate both values. Again, hold the Alt key, left click and drag down, release. So I'm clicking with I click with my mouse onto X and drag down to Y, and then I release. 0.01. So make this smaller and smaller and smaller. I don't necessarily know how big this is, so I will do a small helper. I will go add mesh plane .25 along the y-axis, in my case 90 degrees. Move this up. Yeah, okay, there I can see this is way too big. Select this, edit mode, everything is selected. Alt click and drag. 0.001. Oh, this is too much. 0.002. Getting better. 0.003. Yeah, this looks close. Yeah, we can keep it. So we know that this is roughly representing a 1/4 inch of a rim. Now with Z again, we can switch our viewports, wireframe and solid. Select this. This is still faceted. Right-click shading doesn't do anything. We have to go to the skin modifier and turn on smooth shading, and then under the mesh data, auto smooth. Okay. And this very quickly showed you how to make a trash can with not actually complicated techniques, and a little bit more explanation in how to use the bevel modifier and how to treat 3 edges that meet, and what 2 options we have there to create various types of edge fillets.